Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is Sam Bass, who came from Indianny. This article begins with an old cowboy song. It says, Sam Bass was born in Indianny. It was his native home, and at the age of 17, young Sam Woody would roam. He went for out to Texas, a cowboy for to be, a better-hearted feller I know you'd never see. This article was written by Elmo Scott Watson. It says, that is one of the many verses of a song that has been sung along the cattle trails or around the campfire of every roundup camp from the Rio Grande to the Canadian line. To its strains, the night herder lulled his restless charges to sleep, and it was a prime favorite of every wandering troubadour whose battered old mandolin or guitar and gift of song assured him of a warm welcome from the lonely inhabitants of some sod shanty on a government claim in the windswept west. The Sam Bass song takes almost equal rank with the one about Jesse James as the most distinctly native American ballad. For what Jesse James was to Missouri, that Sam Bass was to Texas. The other day, press dispatches carried the news that the University of Texas was collecting material about our most famous outlaw because without the story of this picturesque figure, the history of the Lone Star State would not be complete. But Texas alone cannot claim him for her own. The states of Indiana, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma all had a share in the odyssey of this Robin Hood hero. In a broader sense, he belongs to all America, because as a figure in the pageant of the American frontier, he symbolizes so well one frontier type, the outlaw, whose brief and stormy career inevitably ended in this paraphrased epitaph, Sic transit, sic gunibus. Although Sam Bass has been dead less than 50 years, around his name already has collected a maze of myth and legend until it's difficult to know where fact leaves off and fiction begins. Perhaps the most authoritative account of his life is that contained in a book recently issued by the Yale University Press, which is doing a notable work in preserving Americana outside of the usual fields of historical research. The book is 6 Years with the Texas Rangers by James B. Gillette, which, although it does not pretend to be a complete chronicle of the Texas Rangers, gives an interesting cross-section of the history of one of the most remarkable bodies of law enforcement officers the world has ever known. In the chapter on Sam Bass and his train robber gang, Captain Gillette tells of this outlaw hero of song and story as follows. Sam Bass was born in Indiana on a farm near Mitchell, Lawrence County, July 21st, 1851. He came to Texas while a youth and worked for W.F. Dad Egan, sheriff of Denton County, until he reached manhood. While still an exemplary and honest young man, Bass came into possession of a race pony, a little sorrel mare. On Saturday evenings, when most of the neighborhood boys met in Denton, Bass raced his pony with much success. Mr. Egan soon noticed that Sam was beginning to neglect his work because of his pony, and knowing only too well what this would lead to, he advised Sam to sell his mare. Bass hesitated, for he loved the animal. Finally, matters came to such a point that Mr. Egan told Sam he would have to get rid of the horse or give up his job. Bass left Denton County in the spring of 1877 and traveled to San Antonio. Here many cattlemen were gathered to arrange for the spring cattle drive to the north. Joel Collins, who was planning to drive a herd from Uvalde County to Deadwood, Dakota, hired Bass as a cowboy. After 6 months on the trail, the herd reached Deadwood and was sold, and all the cowboys paid off by Mr. Collins. At that period, Deadwood was a great wide-open mining town. Adventurers, gamblers, miners, and cattlemen all mingled together. Though Joel Collins bought his cattle on credit and owed the greater part of the money he received for them to his friends in Texas, he gambled it all away. When he sobered up and realized the money was gone, he did not have the moral courage to face his friends and creditors at home. He became desperate, and with a band of his cowboys held up and robbed several stagecoaches in the Black Hills. These robberies brought Collins very little booty, but they started Sam Bass on his criminal career. In the fall of 1877, Collins, accompanied by Bass, Jack Davis, Jim Barry, Bill Heffridge, and John Underwood, better known as Old Dad, left Deadwood and drifted down to Ogallala, Nebraska. Here he conceived, planned, and carried into execution one of the boldest train robberies that had ever occurred in the United States. When all was ready, these 6 men, heavily armed and masked, held up the Union Pacific train at Big Springs, a small station a few miles beyond Ogallala. The bandits entered the express car and ordered the messenger to open the safe. The latter explained that the through safe had a time lock and could only be opened at the end of the route. One of the robbers then began to beat the messenger over the head with a 6-shooter, declaring he would kill him if the safe were not opened. Bass, always of a kindly nature, pleaded with the man to desist, declaring he believed the messenger was telling the truth. Just as the robbers were preparing to leave the car without a cent, one of them noticed 3 stout little boxes piled near the big safe. The curious bandit seized the coal pick and knocked out the lid of the top box. To his great delight, he exposed $20,000 in shining gold coin. The 3 boxes each held a similar amount, all in $20 gold pieces of the mintage of 1877. After looting these boxes, the robbers went through the train and in a systematic manner robbed the passengers of about $5,000. Before daylight, the bandits had hidden their booty and returned to Ogallala. They hung around town several days, while railroad officials, United States Marshals, and sheriff's parties were scouring the country for the train robbers. While in Ogallala, before and after the robbery, Collins and his men frequented a large general merchandise store. In this store was a clerk by the name of Leach, who had once been an express messenger on the Union Pacific and who was well acquainted with the officials of the company. Of course, the great train robbery was the talk of the town. Leach conversed with Collins and his gang about the holdup, and the bandits declared they would help hunt the robbers if there was enough money in it. The suspicions of Leach were aroused, and he became convinced that Collins and his band were the real holdup men. However, he said nothing to anyone about this belief, but carefully watched them. Finally, Collins came to the store, and after buying clothing and provisions, told Leach that he and his companion were going back to Texas, and would be up on the trail the following spring with another herd of cattle. When Collins had been gone a day's travel, Leach hired a horse and followed him. He watched the gang make their camp one night and crept up to within a few yards of them. The bandits had built a big fire and were laughing and talking. Soon they spread out a blanket and, to the onlooker's great astonishment, brought out some money bags and emptied upon the blanket some $60,000 in gold. The coin was stacked in 6 piles, and each man received $10,000 in $20 gold pieces. It was decided that Collins and Bill Heffridge would travel back to San Antonio together. Sam Bass and Jack Davis were to go to Denton County, while Jim Berry and Old Dad were to return to the Berry home in Mexico, Missouri. As soon as Leach had seen the money and heard the robbers' plans, he slipped back to his horse, mounted, and rode day and night to reach Ogallala. He notified the railroad officials of what he had seen and gave the names and descriptions of the bandits and their destinations. This information was sent broadcast over southern Nebraska, Kansas, Indian Territory, and Texas. In the fugitive list sent to each company of rangers, Sam Bass was thus described: 25 to 26 years old, 5 feet 7 inches high, black hair, dark brown eyes, brown mustache, large white teeth, shown them when talking, has very little to say. Bass had left Denton County early in the spring, an honest, sincere, and clean young man. By falling in with evil associates, he had become within a few months one of the most daring outlaws and train robbers of his time. Before he had committed any crime in the state, the officers of northern Texas made repeated efforts to capture him for the big reward offered by the Union Pacific and the Express Company. But owing to the nature of the country around Denton and the friends Bass had as long as his gold lasted, they met with no success. Bass's money soon attracted several desperate and daring men to him. Henry Underwood, a younger brother of Old Dad, Arkansas Johnson, Jim Murphy, Frank Jackson, Pipes, Herndon, Bill Collins, the last named a cousin of Joel Collins, and 2 or 3 others joined him in the Elm Bottoms. Naturally, Bass was selected as leader of the gang. It was not long before the outlaw chief planned and executed his first train robbery in Texas at Eagle Ford, a small station on the Texas Pacific Railroad a few miles out of Dallas. In quick succession, the bandits held up 2 or 3 other trains, the last being at Mesquite Station, 10 or 12 miles east of Dallas. From this robbery, they secured about $3,000. The whole state was now aroused by the repeated train holdups. Counting the 30 Rangers, a special company organized at Dallas, and the different sheriff's parties, there were probably 100 men in pursuit of the Bass gang. Sam played hide and seek with them all, and it's said never ranged any farther west than Stevens County or farther north than Wise. He was generally in Dallas, Denton, or Tarrant County. He would frequently visit Fort Worth or Dallas at night, ride up with his men to some outside saloon, get drinks all around, and then vamoose. Finally, in a fight at Salt Creek, Wise County, Captain June Peak and his rangers killed Arkansas Johnson, Bass's most trusted lieutenant. About the same time as this battle, the Rangers captured Pipes, Herndon, and Jim Murphy and drove Bass and his two remaining companions out of northern Texas. By midsummer of 1878, the climax of Bass's career was approaching rapidly. Jim Murphy was persuaded by the Rangers to turn traitor and to return to the bandit leader for the express purpose of betraying him. Eventually, Murphy sent word to General Jones, commander of the Texas Rangers, that Bass and his comrades were planning to rob the bank in Round Rock, a little town less than 20 miles from Austin, the state capital, where Jones had his headquarters and where at the time he had with him 4 Rangers, Corporal Vernon Wilson and Privates Dick Ware, Chris Connor, and George Harold. Jones immediately went to Round Rock with Ware, Connor, and Harold, and upon his arrival, notified Deputy Sheriff Grimes that the Bass gang was coming to rob the bank, but that he, Grimes, should make no attempt to arrest any strangers who came into town until Lieutenant Reynolds and his men of Company E, among them Corporal James B. Gillette, had arrived from San Saba, where Corporal Wilson had been sent to order them to Round Rock. Bass had decided to rob the bank on Saturday, July 20th, and on Friday morning he rode into town with his 2 companions, Jackson and Barnes, to take a look at the bank and plan the route of their escape on the morrow. They went up the main street of the town and entered Copperell's store to buy some tobacco. As the 3 bandits passed into the store, Deputy Sheriff Moore, who was standing on the sidewalk with Deputy Sheriff Grimes, said he thought one of the newcomers had a pistol. "I will go in and see," replied Grimes. "I believe you have a pistol," remarked Grimes, approaching Bass and trying to search him. "Yes, of course I have a pistol," said Bass. At the words, the robbers pulled their guns and killed Grimes as he backed away to the door. He fell dead on the sidewalk. They then turned on Moore and shot him through the lungs as he attempted to draw his weapon. At the crack of the first pistol, Dick Ware, who was seated in a barber shop only a few steps away, waiting his turn for a shave, rushed into the street and encountered the 3 bandits just as they were leaving the store. Seeing Ware rapidly advancing on them, Bass and his men fired on him at close range, one of their bullets striking a hitching post within 6 inches of his head and knocking splinters into his face. This assault never halted Ware for an instant. He was as brave as courage itself, and never hesitated to take the most desperate chance when the occasion demanded it. For a few minutes, he fought the 3 robbers single-handed. General Jones, returning from the telegraph office, ran into the fight. He was armed with only a small Colt's double-action pistol, but threw himself into the fray. Connor and Harold had now come up and joined in the fusillade. The bandits had now reached their horses, and realizing their situation was critical, they fought with the energy of despair. If ever a train robber could be called a hero, Frank Jackson proved himself one. Barnes was shot down and killed at his feet, and Bass was mortally wounded and unable to defend himself or even mount his horse, while the bullets continued to pour like hail from every quarter. With heroic courage, Jackson held the Rangers back with his pistol in his right hand, while with his left he unhitched Bass's horse and assisted him into the saddle. Then, mounting his own horse, Jackson and his chief galloped out of the very jaws of hell itself. The next day, the Rangers found Bass desperately wounded in some woods near Round Rock. He had prevailed upon Jackson to leave him to his fate and make his escape. He was taken back to Round Rock and given medical attention, but it was of no avail. The end of the trail of Sam Bass is marked by a simple little monument in the Round Rock Cemetery, now defaced by relic seekers bearing this inscription: Samuel Bass, born July 21st, 1851, died July 21st, 1878. A brave man reposes in death here. Why was he not true? This story came from the great state of Nebraska, being reported in the Headlight of March 31st, 1927. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.